Welcome, everybody, to Liberty First Foundation Weekly Roundtable, where you will find us here every Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Um, there's been a lot going on this week. We've got a Supreme Court ruling that came down this week. We've got huge controversy in Congress about raising the debt ceiling, and we've got Trump had an interview talking about his being found liable for sexual harassment and sexual assault and many other things. So with that, I need to take care of some things backstage. So I am going to turn it over to uh, Michael and Frank, and I will be here listening and piping in as I can.
well, do you want to explain to everybody exactly what happened, Michael? Well, Michael has to handle some backstage stuff because he deleted all of our backstage stuff.
No, I deleted one thing.
Nah, he just deleted one thing, so now he wants to make sure that's up and running before we get going again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been an interesting week to say the least. I know there were a couple of things that I wanted to touch on this week in the Second Amendment realm, but right now I think we're going to start off with I am absolutely stunned.
Oh, that's what they're doing. Okay.
Mike's talking to himself. I'm absolutely stunned at what the Twitter world looks like this week, as every single leftist pundit, talking head, celebutant, and everything else are all going after CNN like they just kicked their mother in the face. Boycott CNN. How could CNN do this? How could they do this? CNN are right-wing shills. They're MAGA terrorists. These are all the things that I've seen come across the Twitter feed this week, because Twitter had the audacity to hold a town hall meeting with former President Donald Trump, and somehow or another, there were people in the audience that actually support the former president and his message, and apparently that's a big no-no. That's a sin that's committed in the world today, where you would have anybody, remotely, endorse, cheer, be happy for, or anything. I was just stunned, but I got to tell you, I was extremely amused watching all those heads explode this week. It has been magnificent. Vass, what's your take on things?
Well, Trump, I love the way that they're all freaking out, because this is exactly what they wanted. This is what they've been looking forward to, is they need President Trump to raise up their ratings, CNN, MSNBC, because everything else has been the focus on Biden and his policies and the consequences. And it's all negative, which is why 58% of Democrats don't want him to run. It's why he's at 36% approval rating, because every policy that he and the Democrats have put forward is a failure. Internationally, looking at it on an economic level, I mean, pick your choice. The uniter, remember, in 2019, he was the uniter in chief. He was going to bring us all together, and then demonized fully half the nation just because they don't agree with his policies, because they're not working. He demonized Americans for not taking an experimental jab. And here we are looking at Trump, and their only focus on CNN was, well, he's a bad guy. You're supposed to not like him. And then he turns around and says, here's the honest truth. And what was the result? People clapped. They applauded him. They agreed with him. The news media is losing their minds. So like, aren't you supposed to remember that he's the bad guy? Don't you remember we told you he was evil every day? And now they're surprised because everyone's going, no, we see the truth now. So I'm not surprised that Trump did so well. And I'm not surprised the news media, the mainstream media, the internet overlords are shocked that their attack, their propaganda isn't working anymore.
Well, the thing I took away from it was, all right, we know that there's unbridled hatred for the man,
Yes.
absolute hatred for the man. But when you really boil it down, it's hatred of the message. Trump is just the package that the message comes wrapped up in. You know, as messed up as the wrapping paper is and crudely, taped together and the bows all crooked and everything else like that. It's a very disheveled wrapping. But the message that he points out is the same message that he pointed out 6 years ago, and the same message that resonated 6 years ago. And if it not for the fact that it was Trump, they would still hate the message. They just happen to hate the messenger more because the messenger did something to them that was completely unforgivable. And that was to take the crown away from the anointed one, Hillary Clinton. They still haven't got over that sting yet. They still thought they had that in the bag, but then the American people said otherwise. So they don't necessarily hate him because of him. They hate him because he put her out.
And pretty much made it so that she couldn't run.
Right.
Ever.
Right. But remember, when it comes down to it, it's still the message. They still hate the message. And if you juxtapose the message that he was getting across at the town hall versus what you see happening at the southern border today, all right, that is unquestionably the American people are against what's happening down there. No doubt about it. There's no way that you can. Why would you have Border Patrol opening the gates and allowing tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of people walk across our southern border and hand them each a pre-programmed cell phone with every single agency already listed in it and where they can start receiving their benefits? They hate the message, and they're just boiling over because it's Trump. It could just as easily been your Florida governor doing that same message.
No.
Well, it wouldn't have been met with the same vitriol because there's, like I said, the hate for Trump overwhelms everything.
Yeah,
but still attack the message.
Well, it's not even the message. It's the messenger. It's the way the messenger conveys it. Trump is not a politician. He's never been a politician.
Right. That's what I call the gift wrapping.
Right. But that to them is more important because it's effective. It reaches people and the people are responding to it because it's a normal person, or as normal as the language gets, having a conversation with you. Here's what I'm trying to do. Here's the result of it all. And that's what they really hate because there's an old saying. I used to say this back when 2014, when I ran for Congress. And I've said it to many politicians since. It doesn't cost a whole lot of money to tell people the truth because people recognize the truth and they accept it. It costs an enormous amount of money, a ridiculous amount of money to try and sell people a lie because it's a lie. And so you'll see that, and that's the interaction that we're seeing so much right now. Trump is very simply, in that CNN town hall, he was focused on the truth. They're like, oh my God, you're going to take the J6 prisoners as an example, and you will pardon a large number of them. Oh my God, but don't you know they were evil? They were all burning down the White House. It's like, no, the overwhelming majority, about 15 to 1,700 of the 2,000 people have been charged with trespassing, not anything more. In fact, it's about 1,800 have been charged with trespassing. That's it. Why shouldn't they get a pardon? They didn't do anything. They didn't burn anything down. You didn't see billions of dollars in damage in Washington, D.C. This wasn't Portland or Seattle or Atlanta or Minneapolis. It's not the same. And he made it, and he just said the truth. And why wouldn't you? And they were adamant, you can't say that because it doesn't match their political ideology. And that's why they're so upset. He embarrasses them by just being honest. Not that he's the best man in terms of his personality, but then again, we've had lots of presidents that have bad personalities. You're not being elected because I want to go out and have a beer with you. That's not why you're the president. You're there to be effective and to make sure people understand what's going on.
No beer summits.
Exactly. You know, I love that. Oh my God, Obama had a beer summit. That's not the job of the president. That may be wonderful for some entertainer in Hollywood. That's not the job of a politician. So
Well,
it's ridiculous to me.
well, Trump's thing is, he claims he's not a politician. That's his moniker. I'm not a
Mhm.
politician. All right. Well, some of the things that he was talking about as far as policy were concerned, I still, all right, everybody who I speak to knows that I'm not exactly a Trump guy.
Mhm.
I'm not a Trump guy. All right. I'm a fighter guy. I like a guy who goes in there and rustles it up. I like a guy who throws punches. I like a guy who don't back down. In that sense of the word, I'm pro-Trump. In the sense of the word that he's pro-business, he's pro-America first, he's pro-closed borders, he's pro a lot of that stuff. Some very conservative things. I'm pro-Trump. But the thing that strikes me about him is he's still incredibly naive. After the 4 years of hell that the media and the rest of the political class put him through during his tenure, and the 2 years of hell he's gone through since, he still hasn't learned some lessons, some very valuable lessons. And and we spoke about this the last time, several shows back about, my thing is, he's got to own up to a couple of his shortcomings if he wants to start bridging some of the gaps, because he burned a lot of bridges down with a good section of people. And last night he just showed that he has no interest in doing that. He still thinks he's going to be able to run on the same message that he ran on 4 years ago after we've already experienced the things that he did wrong. And he hasn't learned from that. And my question is going to be, what else didn't he learn from? He staffed his entire White House with people from previous administrations because they had political experience, and all of them stabbed them in the back, stabbed the American people in the back. He hired Omarosa, of all people, to work on his stuff. For what? Because she's a TV personality? There are things that he just doesn't get. And I don't necessarily know if he's going to get them in time enough, if where he should actually win the election, that he's going to be able to right this ship. Because every day I turn around and I'm looking, we are getting closer and closer to the point of no return as far as the condition of this country is concerned. Yeah, what is it? 700,000 people are waiting at the border right now? 700,000?
Yeah, and the whole idea is, and we have Marines that are sitting as paper pushers. They're doing paperwork. The Marines. I was never trained in the Marines to push paper. It's not I'm not middle management. That's not what the Marine Corps is there for. But yet that's what he has the Army and the Marine Corps doing, is we're pushing paper. This is ridiculous. But it's also part of the agenda that he has identified. Biden and the Democrats are saying, no, we're letting them in. It's an open door. We're letting the criminals in. We're allowing this violation of our law, and which is why so many people are upset. That's why we see, here's the easiest way to see how well this is affecting everyone. I want to just show everyone this, because I really want the impact of what they are doing and what the contrast is showing everyone. I'm going to bring up this link, Mike, if you can share it with everyone.
Yep.
Where's my system? There it is. Boop, there it is. Here we go. By the way, folks, notice Mike is doing so well now. His computer's fixed.
Yes, thanks to Frank, who sent me a computer this week. I was able to get it set up and for the show, and things are doing much, much better.
Absolutely. And we can actually send them a link and get it on. So this is how bad it is.
And other improvements yet to come.
Yeah. Most people don't know where Broome County is in upstate New York. but it is one of the central hubs. Once you leave New York City, this is one of the central hubs, Broome County. It's about 4 hours away from New York City, going to the west. And they are so terrified. This is from the local news, WIVT News. This is the left-leaning news media of the region. And they're talking about the county executive, Jason Garnar, a man that I've known for many years, a Democrat, hardcore through and through, has declared a state of emergency to prevent illegal aliens from being shipped into New York. Because New York City, in preparation of all the illegal aliens coming to that part of our border, coming into the United States there, is overwhelming. And so their answer is, we're just going to send it to everyone. We're just going to ship out all these illegal aliens to cities and states that never asked for them, that do not believe in sanctuary, that believe in the law, and they're going to ship them on out to everyone else because it's like Martha's Vineyard. It's your problem. Yeah, we let them in, but you have to deal with it, not us. No, it's like Martha's Vineyard. It's like Kamala Harris's house in town. The illegal aliens are fantastic as long as the American citizen has to deal with it, not the elected officials. They're not going over to Nancy Pelosi's house. They're not going over to Schumer's because they're going to kick them out just like they did at Martha's Vineyard. But we know that it is so extreme that even Democrats, long-term, hardcore, bluer than blue Democrats in bluer than blue states are saying we have to use state of emergency. Talk about extreme. They're going to extreme resources and techniques to try and protect their cities because this is going to destroy us. This is horrible. And Trump is actually being honest and saying, no, doing this in this manner is going to destroy us. And the towns across America towns and counties across America are saying, yeah, this is going to be devastating. We can't survive this. And they're like, no, we'll just keep going with it. It's crazy.
Well, you have folks like us on the right that are concerned with what it does to a country. And, we say, well, politics is local. When we talk about how it affects us as a country, it's right over the head of so many people because it's not next door to them. It's a drop in the ocean. It's a drop in the ocean. They don't really notice it that much because it's not affecting them immediately, directly. Have you seen what's going on in Chicago?
Yeah.
They're finally understanding what it means to have a microcosm effect with some of this stuff because they're out there saying that they're getting busloads and busloads of illegals coming into Chicago. And now the local Democrat, I guess they're aldermen that they have there in Chicago. I'm not sure what the political...
it's basically city council.
Same idea. City councilman, all the rest of the stuff. The assembly, city council, they're all screaming now because they're saying, you have people out here trying to pass, you can vote with no ID, that you can vote without being a citizen. They want to let, non-citizens vote. And now they're starting to say, well, you're going to start to see a shift in how certain monies that are allocated towards certain groups are now going to have to get redirected because when you have all these people who are going to come in and vote based on their own self-interests, well, guess what happens? The people who've been getting those funds locally now are not going to get those funds when you have more people voting to give them the funds instead. So now you have people in Chicago screaming because they are going to suffer firsthand of the policies of the open border scenario. They're going to find out that they're the ones that are losing the money going to their schools. They're the ones that are going to lose the money going into their food stamps. They're the ones that are going to lose money going into social programs and every other, giveaway program they have. All of a sudden, the well is going to run dry, and they're none too happy about it. And
Well,
they're
they-
looking at saying, well, why is the well going to run dry? Well, look at all the illegals that are coming in and taking all these resources. So the old phrase about, the one who feeds the alligator is the last one on the menu, because as soon as you run out of food, the alligator eats you. Well, guess what, Chicago? You're on the fucking menu.
Well, they know. Again, it's not just, I showed Broome County, a small county in New York State that most people don't know about and how they're reacting. Chicago's doing the same thing. They declared a state of emergency as well. Again, bluer than blue. This is the stronghold of progressivism in America, and they're declaring a state of emergency. They got 8,000 illegal aliens in the last year, just 8,000. We get 10,000 before Title 42 went away. We had 10,000 illegal aliens per day entering into Texas. They got 8,000. That's less than 1 day of illegal aliens without Title 42, and they can't handle it. And so they declared a state of emergency. Now, people don't think about this. And again, you have to go to and wonder, why didn't I hear about this? Because you have to go to the BBC News. You have to go over to other countries to see what's happening in our own country. But here's the thing, because again, they don't want you, the American people, to know. They want you to think everything's fantastic. They just don't want to tell you what's actually happening and what the consequences are, because it's negative. Because when you say, oh, they're overwhelmed with just 8,000, they're going to get 100, 200 illegal aliens a day without Title 42, that these policies, this open door policy, is taking away. That means that's money that's going from Medicare. That's money that's going from, you're losing the Medicare, you're losing feeding the homeless, feeding children, that's education, that's people who are losing every single service you can think of. And now you have people like, as Jan mentioned, AOC, who are saying, oh, and now we have to get our jobs. Businesses have to give jobs to illegal aliens, breaking yet another law. It is illegal to do this. She is aiding and abetting a crime by saying businesses should hire illegal aliens, not American citizens, not people legally in America. That is a crime. And she's trying to push that, which means who's getting hired? Not you, an American, and illegal aliens getting hired. Why are we doing this? We're destroying the very bedrock of our nation. And when Trump mentions that on CNN and points that out in plain English so that everyone can understand this is the consequence, oh, they can't spin that because it's easy. I mean, most politicians love to spin these things in words, in a word salad. So they don't actually say anything. They're being generally ambiguous so they can protect themselves for their reelection, because they can always say, I didn't say no. I didn't say I was in favor of that, defunding the police. I never said I wanted to defund the police. I just wanted to reallocate police funding. Same difference. Same thing. But now it sounds different. Rather than that, they can't spin. Yeah, we have an open border. We have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens they're looking to take our jobs. AOC said so, that are destroying our cities. Look at Chicago. Look at our counties in Broome County. And you're going to pay for it all. Higher taxes, less jobs, more inflation. Do you think Biden's doing a good job? It's that simple. And that's amazing to me.
Oh, I just love, I'm sitting here looking at Biden is going and doing all of this. The president of the United States is the chief executive officer, and he's the commander in chief of the U.S. military. Is not the commander in chief of the United States military also subject to court martial, or at least being charged in a military tribunal? Because as far as I can tell, instructing the border to just say, okay, you don't exist anymore, that's dereliction of duty. That is the ultimate violation of the oath of office the fact that he is supposed to be in control of protecting the borders. That's one of the first priorities as president of the United States, is protect the homeland. And if you're not protecting the border, all right, I can understand you have a porous border. It's hard to patrol. You don't have the resources. It's no fault of your own. You know, guys are throwing themselves over the fence with catapults. All right, fine. Some shit's going to happen. But when you just acquiesce and you throw up your hands and you say, I'm not even going to do it. I'm not even going to do it. It's dereliction of duty. That should be an impeachable offense.
It is.
It is an impeachable offense, but it has to go through Congress.
Right.
No,
So
he
why
cannot go through a court martial, but he can be impeached.
Well, then why the hell is Congress not going in and filing them damn papers today? Because this is grounds for it if ever there were.
Well,
Because
that's just it.
Yeah.
Okay, because just as soon as they file impeachment, Democrats are going to come out en masse and literally say, this is only because we went after Trump. Even though Trump did all these illegal things and caused the January 6th riots and insurrection and all this, this is just backlash. This is trying to intimidate us from going after Trump.
Yeah,
that is exactly what they will spend.
Put a camera at the border. We're not making this up. This isn't something that we have to, find in somebody's garage parked underneath their Corvette. This isn't somebody we need to have special hearings on. All you have to do is look at the situation at the border. When you have Border Patrol agents going down there and physically opening up the friggin' gate, opening up the doors, when Department of Homeland Security, the department that was supposed to be, founded to protect America, protect the American citizenry, are handing out cell phones to people coming across the border with absolutely no vetting. We have no idea who any of these people are. We have no idea where they came from. They're not coming over there now seeking asylum. You don't even hear anybody talking about, they're asylum seekers anymore. No, they're once again calling them migrants. It's another caravan. Oh, you don't need asylum if you're part of a caravan. Where the hell? I mean, you had Ted Cruz down at the border yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I seen. That's all I seen. I don't.
Remember, there's still a blockade for the news media. There's a blackout that they can't go to the sites, especially where children are being held. That's been since 2021. They will not allow news media into these tent cities and internment camps where children or illegal aliens are. That's why you have to have members of Congress go, because they can't stop them. But they are stopping the news media so that the public doesn't get to hear this.
Well, you know why they're not letting nobody into the tent cities and these holding centers? You know why? Because there's nobody in them. There's nobody in them.
Well, no, there are. But they're only there temporarily because at about midnight, they take private planes and they ship, especially the children, to different cities across America.
That's what I'm saying. There's nobody being held there. They're coming across, they're taking a shower, they're taking a bath, they're getting fresh clothes, they're getting their phone, they're getting their EBT cards, they're getting their stamps, they're getting their plane ticket, their bus ticket, their train ticket, whatever, and then they're out the door again. Yes. There's nobody there. You have probably more employees, federal government employees at these holding centers than you do the people that are supposed to be being detained. Nobody's being fingerprinted. Nobody's being photographed. Nobody's having DNA testing done on them. Nobody's being cross-referenced with the facial recognition software to see if they're on the, if they're a predator or if they're a convicted felon in the home country, if they're on the terrorist watch list.
No. Let me push back a little bit on that, Frank, because they are doing it to some. That's why we know that 98 terrorists or suspected terrorists, known and suspected, were caught in 2022 alone. Now, how many made it through the process and didn't get caught? That's a whole other question.
If you're catching 5-10% of the people crossing the border illegally and you find 92 of the people out of the 10% roughly that I'm giving very generous numbers, how many more are in the 90% that you don't catch coming across the border?
I agree with you. I agree. But I want to make sure that people, I'm not disagreeing with you because I think you're wrong. I'm disagreeing because I want people, when they look it up and go, here's the fact. It is a fact
Right.
that
And
98 terrorists came across, and we are letting people en masse just swarm into our nation. How many more? If we caught 98, how many more are we just letting pass on through?
and listen, and what I'm saying is the 92 that we caught is show pony. That's all it is. It's show pony. It's supposedly they're doing that so they could say, look what we did. Look at how great we are. We did this. You might as well not have caught anybody. You might as well not. Listen, it's like you're living in a house with 35 windows and only one of them's got a screen in it. And you're looking at the screen and you see the bugs that can't get through that one. And you go, oh, look, there's no bugs getting in. It's 34 more freaking open windows.
I understand. You're right.
It's crap. It's crap. It's all a lie. All of it is a lie.
Yeah.
And I know. I talk to friends of mine I have that live in border towns. Danny, I talk to them, and they tell me. I get messages through them. It's like, dude, you don't even want to know what it's like over here. I can't even put my house on the market. I can't put my house on the market. It's worth 10% what it was when I bought it 5 years ago. These people, they're screwed there. And what we see, they're putting out a certain thing, trying to show us that they're doing something. But what we're seeing is, well, you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything. You're trying to placate the masses with your little show of force. But meanwhile, where did you get these 92? Probably at one of the gates where the people come through regularly, because that's where they come through. You didn't get them, running across the desert. You didn't get them pulling them out of these vans when they pull a van over on the highway and there's 65 people crammed inside of it. You're not getting them at the ports where you have 100 people locked inside of a 53-foot container, getting shipped over from another country. Like I said, I used to work on the ports. I used to work on the docks. I was working with INS when it was still Immigration Naturalization Services, before it was ICE. Working with them, I used to do deportations, and I'd see ships coming in from across the globe, covered in 3 inches of solid ice in the middle of wintertime, and there'd be 2-3 containers on that big ship. You're talking 1,500 foot ship with 1,000 containers on it, and there'd be 3 of them had no ice on them, that were just wet, soaking wet, nothing sticking to it. No way. Well, why is there ice on the entire ship? You just crossed the Atlantic Ocean in the middle of January. Everything should be frozen solid. Why are there 4 containers don't have no ice on it?
Buddy.
Because there's 100 people inside of the damn thing with a potbelly stove.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens? They get lifted off. They get put on the pier. They open it up. You get 100 people running out, just running right out onto the ports. Nobody there to stop them. You get one INS agent shows up at the port to a ship. One guy shows up at the ship, and what does the guy do? Captain, can I see your manifest? Looks at the manifest. Oh, this is your crew. Any guests? Any travelers? Anybody paid voyages?
Mm-hmm.
No. Okay. Stamps it and he goes about his merry way. Doesn't count the people. Doesn't look at how many people are on the ship. Doesn't do anything. They're there for 5 minutes. They're on the boat and they're gone. Customs, they're on the boat and they're gone. They don't give a shit. It's all a show. It's all a show.
Absolutely agree with you.
The price for it. And this jerk off in Washington just took out whatever little effective limit we've had. He voluntarily removed. Yes. Voluntarily, purposefully removed.
Hey, and you ever think about it? Even if we think of it from a different point of view, let's play a little devil's advocate. Okay, Title 42, they want the border open, but they say they want it all controlled. He's had 2 years, or even if you want to look at since the beginning of the year, to prepare America to take on. They knew there was going to be a massive wave. We've seen sporadic headlines, mostly from overseas, mostly from the right, that have been saying we're going to get enormous waves of people coming into this nation. We're going to see a spike in immigration, illegal aliens that we have never seen before. We can't handle this. He had 2 years, or if you prefer, since the beginning of 2023, 5 months to prepare for what is happening now. He didn't do anything until last week. And his
Well,
answer was, here's 1,500 Marines to do paperwork. Really? This is
Well-
how bad it is.
again, he hasn't prepared. Maybe he did try to prepare. Maybe he did try to figure out where to put all of these people. But every single one of the mayors, governors, and everybody else involved in these cities all said, "No, frig you, we can't take them. Find somewhere else to do it." If he's got nowhere to send them, then they're leaving him in his lap. He's got to figure out what to do with them. So you look at Chicago. I'm sure if Chicago knew, oh, we're sending you 20,000 illegal aliens next week, you're going to have to food, clothe, house, and employ all these people. That new mayor in Chicago would probably flip his lid and say, "No, you're not sending them here. We can't afford it."
No, they got 8,000 and they can't handle it.
Yeah, well, they got
8,000.
right, and I bet the 8,000 that showed up there without their approval.
It's not clear. But
It's-
no.
And
but here's the
because
thing.
it's not clear, they didn't come there with approval. Because if
Probably.
they came with approval, it would have been clear. They
But
would have each been handed the key to the city.
well, like New York City, where Eric Adams is putting the illegal aliens into hotels, 3-star, 4-star hotels, and spending $60,000
College dorms.
per illegal alien. That's a verified fact. He's been screaming about he needs an extra $1 billion just to handle 15,000 illegal aliens. 15,000 illegal aliens. He wants $1 billion.
Well, his last plan is to send them all to Broome, Tioga, Sullivan, Shenango, Albany, all the different counties in New York that he wants to send them. He wants to spread them around the state a little bit to try and quell, the expense, because New York City can't afford it. Well, that's funny, New York City, since you get 80% of the tax revenue from the state, and very little of it gets picked up by the rest of the other counties in New York. Why the rest of the counties got to now pick up the tab again for New York City?
Well, here's the easy
We
thing.
always pick up
New York
stuff
City
in New
said
York.
it was a sanctuary city. The other cities in New York didn't say they're sanctuary. They don't want these people. They didn't ask for this problem. Why is New York City, under the guidance of Eric Adams, the practical progressive, and Kathy Hochul, why are they pushing this problem onto everyone else? They asked for it, no one else. They should deal with it. New York City's like, oh, we can't handle it. You shouldn't have asked for them.
Yeah,
and how about this? How about you deport them, not push the problem to someone else? Actually deport them. Go by the law, follow the law, and get rid of them. I have no compunction and no problem saying, you're illegal aliens. We didn't ask you to be here. Get out my country.
Yeah,
People are afraid to say that and go, oh my God, but that's so mean. It's honest. You're not my problem. Get out my country. Come here legally.
They wanted them when they needed the votes. But now that the reality is there, they don't want them.
Well, that's one of the problems. There's many others. But I'm looking at this in terms of the consequences. We so rarely hear people talk about constitutionality or consequences. When you break the laws, when laws become arbitrary, you get consequences. And that's what we're seeing. The law is arbitrary now. If your city is a sanctuary city, if you have it, whoa, am I still with you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, my screens went blank here. When you have I know why, my side, power saver came on. When you have arbitrary laws, so you have sanctuary cities, you have sanctuary states that are violating actual federal and state law, openly violating state and federal law, then you don't have any laws, because what law applies? Which is the same thing that we see that's
Well,
coming
their
out of
claim is that the federal government and the states don't have the authority to enact those laws.
That's a lie.
That's why they are creating these sanctuary cities.
That's a lie. The Constitution says that cities and states and the federal government do have the right to make that decision.
Well, actually, let me pull it up, because now I don't know about, and this would be state by state basis, but U.S. Constitution actually doesn't say that it has the right to regulate. It has the right to set the rules for. Let me get it up here.
By setting the rules. And
Hold on
I
a
think the
second.
part,
I'll read it because it's actually okay. So here it is. Let me share this.
look, he can walk.
No, I'm standing on my scooter.
Okay, so what it says is a uniform rule to establish a uniform rule of naturalization, i.e., a uniform rule on becoming a citizen of the United States. It does not say anything about immigration.
And this is, well, that's legalese, but I would understand it that when we establish the uniform rules, we are establishing a regulation. We are establishing what is legal entry and illegal entry. And we do
No,
have
well,
laws about
let's
legal
get
and
this.
illegal entry.
Let's get this. Let's get back to this. Okay, to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. Naturalization is becoming a citizen of the United States. Doesn't say anything about entry into the United States. Doesn't say anything about immigration. It specifically says naturalization.
It says naturalization.
Right. And
That is so
that is where
tenuous.
the conflict lies.
I understand the argument they're making. I find it to be tenuous, and it's playing with the words and the meaning of the words. And I believe that if we are looking at the
Well,
original meanings, that this is meant that they had a clear understanding that the government has the right to refuse entry. In fact, the president has the right to refuse entry of various individuals or countries into the United States. Carter did it. I know Obama did it. So it's been done by Democrats many times. We've done this many times. World War One, World War II, Carter, Obama, Trump. We've seen this. The president can deny it, so can the federal government. We can deny entry.
okay. Do you know when the first actual restrictive immigration law was passed by Congress?
Wasn't that about the Chinese back in the 1800s, if I remember correctly?
No,
It was the anti-Chinese bill.
no,
There was one before that.
no.
There
All right,
was.
we're not going to play 20 questions. Just tell us.
Okay, the first active restrictive immigration law was in 1970.
1917.
Yep.
Well, wait a minute. There was a law that was meant on immigration to restrict
In
Chinese.
1875,
That's the one I'm thinking
the
of.
Supreme Court in 1875 declared regulation of immigration as a federal responsibility. The Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 and alien contract labor laws of 1885 and 87 prohibited certain laborers from immigrating to the United States.
Yeah, the
Federal Immigration
1800s.
Act of 1882. But again, that's almost 100 years after the Constitution was adopted.
And I believe it was, if I remember correct, and it is the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. Just double check my notes. And that's the one which was based on the powers of the Constitution and Congress. They went back to the original document. So my point is, there's precedence. We don't have to have an open door. In fact, we really haven't had open doors. We've had rules consistently. at the least since 1882, if not from the actual beginning. And there's precedent on this. We know that presidents can and have excluded various individuals from being able to emigrate into the United States, legally as well as illegally. We saw that under Carter most recently. We've seen it under Carter. We've seen it under Obama. We've seen it under Trump. This is one of the powers that the presidency has, to have an open door policy and to tell the American people, oh, this is absolutely normal and it has no impact on you, that it's all good, is just blatantly propagandist lies. There is a direct problem, consequence to every single American for doing this. It's one of the reasons why we have inflation going up. It's one of the reasons why we have taxes going up, because our burdens are going up, because we're accepting people who were not invited to this country, who do not have a right to be here, and that we should be throwing out the door. Now, that's my opinion on it. Maybe some people will disagree, but we have no obligation to them. None. You know, your country is horrible. Fantastic. Fix your country. That's got nothing to do with me. But Guatemala's terrible. Venezuela's falling apart. That's your country. You voted in Venezuelan government. You went for progressive socialist communist government. You gave up your guns. You allowed the government to shoot your people and to starve your people and to take away your medication. That's not my responsibility as an American or what America did. That's what you did with your country. Go back, fix it. Not my problem. Not to say that I'm not compassionate about people like in the Sudan who are being killed because of their religion, which is a religious genocide. We've seen that. I'm happy to help those people out. I'm happy to help people out like in Afghanistan. They worked with the United States for 20 years. And you know what? We have an obligation. They put their lives on the line for our interests. And when Biden decided to run away, you know what? You still have that obligation to these people that you've made for 2 decades. Yes, I have no problem helping them. But there's no reason why Joe Random coming from Angola or China, because yes, they're coming from Angola. This isn't just about South America. We got people going through South America from Angola, from all around Africa, from China, literally China, that are coming in by the busload into the United States. We have no obligation to these people. We have no obligation. Their country is all messed up. Fantastic. Fix your country. We have to fix our country. Let's focus on our country first. That means close the border and fix the problems. Not tell me that, hey, life is beautiful and you're okay and don't worry about it. As I can't afford mortgages. People across America can't afford their mortgages. They can't afford their rent. They can't afford the increase in energy. And by the way, they're increasing the cost of energy again. The new EPA rules, again, EPA, they don't have a right to make laws. Their new regulations are now going to hit the energy plants to make them more climate change friendly, which means more energy costs for you. We are out of control in this country. This is why people are looking at a Ron DeSantis, why they're looking at a Trump. We have to pull back. This has gotten to a ridiculous extent, and we are literally self-destructing in front of the rest of the world, which is why China, everyone's turning to China and going to them, and they're becoming more and more powerful, doing the things that we used to do. They're going over to China to say, ooh, make peace in my country. Let's have a trade deal with you. Let's talk with China first, see what China thinks about it. We are losing everything. And people do not understand that as we lose this, one, it's not something we will ever get back. And the quality of life for you and your children, your grandchildren, will be lower than the generation before. This is the real consequence, and no one's talking about it.
Well, half the country doesn't want to talk about it because it's by design. And the other half of the country, well, nobody's going to let them talk about it because they're going to get censored or called a terrorist or an extremist. and they're
Yeah, I
going to
get
lose
that.
their jobs. They're going to get in trouble. They're not going to be able to do what they need to do. So they've chilled the conversation for the right, and the left doesn't want to own up to what they want, which is the full destruction of the country. There's no other way about. There's no other way to say. Like I said, nobody can be this stupid. Nobody can be this stupid. I mean, they are so desperate to finish their job that they wheeled Dianne Feinstein back into the House yesterday. What is she? 138 years old.
92.
90. She's in a wheelchair. They said she's suffering from shingles.
Yep.
They bring her back into a wheelchair. The only thing the media could hear her say is, "Where am I going? What am I doing?" She doesn't know where she is. The woman literally does not know where she is. And they're wheeling her in there so that they can have somebody behind her holding up the puppet strings to raise a hand when they hold the vote. She got no clue. She got no clue what the hell's going on. She doesn't know where she is, this woman. And they're wheeling her in there. Instead of letting the woman stay home and enjoy whatever time she's got left. No, they got to wheel. The destruction of the country is so important to them, they're pulling out all the stops. This is deliberate. It cannot be by accident. It cannot be because they're stupid or it's just a matter of a failed policy. This is all a matter of a successful policy. Left-wing policies. This is the culmination of it. And all you got to do is look 4 hours to the north from where you guys are right now, closer for Michael, and see Canada, and see exactly what's coming down the pike. Then, what is it? In the next 2 weeks, they're instituting their door-to-door confiscation for firearms in Canada.
It's coming. They're trying their best to do that.
Oh, no, they're already gearing up. They're already gearing up to do it. It's not a matter of trying. They got their pieces in place. They've already, pretty much said that that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, but they're also getting pushback on this. Again, for most people in America don't know about the things we're talking about because the mainstream media is isolating it. They're trying to throw that into, if they mention it at all, it's a passing message. I mean, they don't show us what's happening at the southern border. They don't want to have an honest conversation about inflation right now. They want to have, in terms of guns, one of the big things in Virginia, you guys were talking about it. I know we were talking about it amongst ourselves a little bit. And here it is. This week in Virginia, a judge ruled on whether or not you can prevent someone under the age of 21, between 18 and 21, can you restrict their Second Amendment rights? Now, AmmoLand is one of the few sources that mentioned this. This news came out today, the 12th, but the actual decision was on the 10th that this ruling came out. This is in the case of Fraser versus Bureau of ATF. This is Fraser versus the ATF, where an 18-year-old said, wait a minute, I am a citizen of the United States. I have all the rights of a citizen of the United States. I can vote. I can die for my country, join the military. I can take out a loan. I can buy property. I can do virtually everything any other American can do at 18 because I am recognized as a citizen. How dare you prevent me from exercising my Second Amendment rights as an adult citizen? And the judge said, you're right. You're an adult. You have all the rights of an adult. You are legally and recognized as an adult across America. Therefore, your rights, as per the Second Amendment, cannot be restricted simply because of your age. Cannot be done. You're not a child. And I thought that was a great case and a great decision. And it's pushing back against this move to try and just take our guns.
And that's not the only case, because a U.S. judge threw out a Texas gun ban for young adults also. So
yeah.
Go ahead and... Okay, that happened August 25th. So this isn't the first time that the courts have ruled um, restricting 18 years and older from having firearms is unconstitutional. That you can't put a arbitrary age limit on what firearms you can own.
Right. And this goes back to when I said before, to jump back to our original topic of the town hall, why I say Trump is still naive. He's still defending his bump stock ban. And he's still saying he wants to take the guns before, denying due process. He still backs red flag laws. And he still says he still supports a raise on the age limit. Well, we've already had numerous courts across the country have all pushed back already, talking about, well, red flag laws are illegal and unconstitutional. Yeah. The bump stock ban has been overturned.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And now we're getting all of these courts across the country saying you can't restrict somebody, if they're an adult, they have their constitutional rights. He's still, but the thing that pissed me off more than anything that he said, the bump stock ban, nobody really cares. It's not really that important. No, it is extremely important. It's extremely, listen, it's not, I'm sitting here, I got my desk over here. I got full of.
I remember when Trump said that during the CNN, that he spoke to the NRA, and the NRA said, "Don't worry about it. It's not the biggest issue."
Yeah, right. Well,
partially,
fuck the NRA.
Well, I think that in looking at the various news that was going on at that time, it wasn't the biggest. When they said it's not an issue, they meant it's not the biggest issue to address at that moment. There were bigger issues happening than the bump stock.
The bump stock, listen, the bump stock should have never, ever been an issue, period.
I agree.
Period. It should have never been an issue.
I agree.
Have never been an issue. Regardless of what that lunatic in Nevada did at that shooting, whether it was him or somebody else in the room with him or whoever, because we still don't know what the hell happened. We still have all the paperwork from that incident of being classified by the FBI. We're not allowed to get any information from that thing. The bump stock thing should have never happened. They waved something in front of his face, and like a raging bull, he charged at it without knowing anything, without getting any information, without getting any input. He got input from who? The NRA, an organization that has been capitulating our rights since the 1970s, in earlier. Okay,
actually, since the 50s.
Yeah, the NRA does not speak for me. The NRA does not speak for the other 100 million gun owners in this country. The NRA speaks for the NRA and the NRA members, mostly for the NRA board. And what they speak is enough to try and raise money. That's what they care about, is raising money. They don't care about your rights. They don't care about the policy. Mr. President, the bums. Oh, well, I spoke to the NRA, and the NRA. I don't care what the NRA said. I care what I say. I care about what my Constitution says. You know what I care about? I care about the fact that when you turn around and you gave the authority to ban an item that was already deemed perfectly legal for 4 or more years, you gave a regulatory agency the ability to write its own law, bypassing the House, bypassing the Senate, allowing them to go after anything they wanted to, because now you gave them the right to change the rules. You gave them the right to change the rules, and that's exactly what the hell they did. Now they went after that. They're going after the binary triggers. They're going after force reset triggers. If you put...
They're going after arm braces.
Went after arm braces. All right. Mm-hmm. If I put this grip, I'm waiting for the camera to catch up. If I put this grip, I have this gun. Okay. If I put this grip on this gun, I'm committing a felony. Now, I can't put this grip on this gun because this gun doesn't have a Picatinny rail. and this is not equipped for a Picatinny rail. But if I do this, this is an AOW. This isn't any other weapon. Okay, this is a felony to do that. This, not a felony, felony, not a felony, felony. When you have an agency that's making up bullshit laws like this, bullshit rules, and they're doing it without the informed consent of Congress and the American people, and you think it's no big deal, that you open the door and allow them to do that, then you really are too naive. Then not only are you so naive, like I said,
naive. He was naive.
He's still naive because he still doesn't recognize the mistake.
And
he
I
still
think,
doesn't recognize. Listen. I'm somebody who believes that at every kid's life, you give them a fork and you point them to an electrical outlet, and you tell them, "Go ahead, go stick the fork in the electrical outlet." That'll be the last time they ever do it. That'll be the last time they do it. They'll learn their lesson. The man doesn't learn his lessons. Half of the people that were in his administration looked to testify against him, looked to go behind his back, stab him in the back or anything else like that. And everything that he's doing about the Second Amendment, he doesn't learn his lesson. He should have said from the beginning, listen, maybe it was a mistake that I went after the bump stocks because I really didn't have all the information and I was going by what the people in my administration that were more well-informed on the issue told me. And now the courts got it right. So I understand the courts got it right. Well, what he should have said was a more
political answer, and he's not that
right.
Political.
Or he should have been able to do the one thing and say, listen, a bump stock, the guy, maybe he used the bump stock, maybe he didn't use the bump stock. There's 25 million other American people that own the bump stock that don't use them for anything illegal. So why are we going to ban them for all those people? Why are we going to infringe on their rights because somebody did something bad? That's the answer he should have given.
Here's another thing.
Doesn't own up to it. He's causing problems.
Here's another thing about Trump. Besides being ignorant on this stuff, Trump will never admit he makes a mistake.
Well, that's his biggest problem. That's his main flaw.
Okay. It doesn't matter what it is. Trump will not admit that he makes a mistake.
And I think this would fall under that category. He doesn't.
And that's why he's still saying that bump stocks should be banned. That's why. Okay. Once it comes out of his mouth, that's his opinion. That's where he's set. He will not admit that he makes a mistake.
But I think the problem is bigger. See, the problem I have isn't with any president. My problem is with the Congress and with the agencies. We have come to a point where we have allowed agencies to believe that they are independent of the Congress and can make de facto law at any point in time that they want, whether it's the EPA attacking our energy sources, whether it's the ATF trying to put in regulations. They don't have that right. They don't have the power to do what they are doing. And that's the problem. The executive, no matter which president it is, they should say, you don't have that power. You can't do that. But the bigger issue is Congress is allowing this. And I think that Congress was correct when they came out and said, we want to defund parts of the ATF, parts of the FBI. I think it's correct. Matt Gaetz is basically on the right track with this, with saying, no, we have to take away their funding as a means of punishing them for overreaching their power. They can't come out and say, oh, today we think a bump stock is illegal. Today we think that the arm brace is illegal. We can't have the EPA say, oh, by the way, every power plant in America has to reconfigure itself on these arbitrary numbers because of climate change, which will drive up the cost of energy and put America into a deeper recession than we already are in. No, you don't have that authority. You want that to be a law? You want that to be something that's going to be done across the nation? Pass a law. Oh, we can't, because the majority of Americans do not agree with these ideas, do not agree with the consequences. And so they're doing loophole run around of the law saying, oh, well, they made that regulation. It's a regulation. We can't do anything about it. No, you can't.
The whole purpose behind regulatory agencies like the EPA, the FCC, ATF, the FAA, et cetera, whichever one you want to name, is to give Congress a means of absolve Congress of responsibility.
Yeah.
Literally.
So they can get reelected.
Mm-hmm. That's
Because-
the whole purpose behind these bureaucratic agencies, these regulatory agencies.
It's a way to get them so that when energy prices go up, this is what he's doing with the EPA now, is very much exactly what Obama, remember the famous line from Obama, I think it was 2017, when he said, well, we have to necessarily skyrocket the cost of electricity to force people to be climate change conscious, to do what he wants, to obey. And this is their way of necessarily skyrocketing the cost of energy, which we know when energy prices go up, inflation goes up, and American citizens suffer. This is their way around it without having someone on the dotted line saying, I voted for this, and therefore they lose their next reelection because someone else comes up and says, that's stupid. Why did you hurt the American people, your constituents? This is their end around.
Well,
but it is insane. It is unconstitutional. We need to stop this. We really do.
They had the head of the APA in a hearing, a congressional hearing, and he is point blank asked if this country goes to net zero on carbon emissions, what would the impact be on the total amount of carbon put in?
Zero impact on the world.
He could give no answer. He could not say anything. He
would not say anything. We know what the answer is. Because the answer is, since 2015, the United States reduces more greenhouse gases than all of Europe and the United Kingdom combined. There is no nation in the world. The next closest nation to the United States in reducing greenhouse gases is the United Kingdom. And we are 6 times better at it than the United Kingdom. We are the answer. Climate change is not an American problem. We are the solution to it. We have been for 8 years now. And the problem is China, India, and Africa. That's the honest answer. That is the data. That is the science. They are the problem. And until China, India, and Africa, the entire continent, decide to give up on oil and gas that they need to build their economies, to give their people a higher quality of life, until they stop that, we are not going to fix climate change. I don't care how dedicated you are to it, how much you believe in man-made climate change. It doesn't matter, because the United States is not the problem. And unless you can convince Angola and Mozambique and all of Africa that their people should have a lower quality of life and die for climate change, until you can convince them of that, this is never going to end. So we need to stop playing this game like we're the solution because we're the problem. It's a lie. It's just that simple. And every piece of the science confirms what I have just said. All the science confirms it.
Well, science also confirms that the total concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere right now is 0.04%.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's 421 parts per million.
Yeah.
The minimum that is needed in order for plants to survive is 150 parts per million. Okay, that is the absolute minimum. If you go below that, plants start dying. Okay. Also, it has been proven that higher carbon concentrations or higher CO2 levels improve and increase plant growth.
Yeah.
Okay. So, this saying that America or the people are this huge detriment to the environment is a falsehood. Okay. Because Earth is naturally able to balance itself. When there's increases in carbon in the atmosphere, plant life increases. Okay. When carbon reduces in the atmosphere, plant life decreases. Okay. It keeps a healthy balance of its atmosphere. Now, does that mean that there's not harmful pollutants in the air? No, it doesn't. But Mother Earth is very good at maintaining a good balance.
Listen, you know where most of the carbon comes from?
People breathing.
The oceans.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, I'm sorry. I was thinking of carbon dioxide
Fish
from people
flatulence.
breathing.
The oceans. Yeah, and I saw a video coming from they had one of these green protests over there in London, and he had some Rhodes Scholar, British college student, says, well, I think what we have to do is stop farming. Farming is the number one contributor to greenhouse gases. So the best way to eliminate them is to eliminate all farming.
Mr. Eat Bugs. Yeah.
Well, where are you going to get your fruits and vegetables? And well, they got plenty of that down at the grocery. You get it at the grocery. You don't go to get it at the farm.
These are the idiots who think that eating
These
bugs
idiots
is a
that
solution.
vote. These are idiots that vote. I think if anything else, they should. I don't care what side of the political spectrum you come from. If you believe one thing or another thing, that's fine, whatever it is. But I think there should at least be some sort of test to find out if you're a complete and utter moron before, because I don't think somebody should be, who is so completely ill-informed should be able to neutralize the vote of somebody that is.
Well,
You have to. They should be at least a 5-question test that before they allow you to vote.
Well, there's a lot of dumb people in government, and a lot of dumb people that are very, very famous for being dumb. AOC, Cory Bush are examples of that. Ilhan Omar. They're counterproductive by definition. But I mean, these things are all connected back to, and all of this traces back to the abject divide that has happened in America since 2020. That we have seen the media so oppressive on such a big propaganda kick for a political ideology that does not, by definition, by analysis, does not actually benefit anyone. They are selling, I said it earlier, it's costing billions. Look at how much money we're seeing Disney lose, how much money CNN has lost. Look at all these companies, they're losing their asses, selling us a bad idea, and it's not working. We're sending $200 million over to Pakistan, $2.4 billion in aid around the world to try and convince them about becoming gender studies and becoming California, which itself is falling apart. We're trying to sell these bad ideas everywhere, and it isn't working, but they won't stop. And the divide gets bigger and bigger because we have younger generations, and this is who they are after. Younger generations, kids who are 5, 8, 15, who don't know anything about the world, don't think about consequences, don't understand anything except what they are told because they are told rote memorization, not critical thinking. These kids are the ones they are targeting, and they are brainwashing them. That is my true belief, that they are brainwashing them to be useful idiots so that in the future, when they say, oh, you don't have a right to the Second Amendment, Oh, you can't go and buy whatever because of climate change. You're going to pay whatever price we tell you to because social justice. They're going to do it, and our nation is going to become very quickly, and I think it's very realistic, a true fear that within 20 years, probably far less, we're going to be in a third world nation. This is going to happen in our lifetimes.
Well, that's why I keep telling people invest in brass, invest in lead, invest in steel and walnut and polymer because because gold and silver ain't going to be worth shit when it collapses. It's not going to be worth it. If you can't eat it, protect yourself with it, warm your house with it, feed it to your livestock, plant it and grow it. It's not worth anything.
We are quickly getting to that point where quality of life, we are watching our quality of life disappear. We are quickly losing our quality of life. And part of that's the illegal immigration. Part of that is the climate change directive. Part of that is just oppression. You don't get to speak about anything. You only get to affirm. Blind affirmation. That's the new thing. Used to be PC. You couldn't say things because it wasn't PC. Then it became a microaggression. Now it's blind affirmation. They keep changing the way they define these things, but it's always the same thing. That at the end of the day, the only thing that you wind up having is less freedom, less quality of life, and you're becoming more and more of a slave. It's terrifying.
An automaton.
Yeah.
That's what they want us all to be. And, but actually, if you look at a lot of these things that they are working on, okay, climate change, the green energy vehicles, and
Electric vehicles.
so on. Okay, it moves us more and more towards the anti-agricultural stance. It moves us closer and closer to these 15-minute cities. It moves us closer and closer to weeks ago. Okay, a lot of these agendas on the left, more so than anywhere else, but there are aspects of it on the right as well, are to push us more and more into little containers where we are easily controlled. And if your container doesn't act the way it's supposed to be acting, then your container gets shut down. And then you get distributed into other containers where you no longer have a voice to raise that resistance.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's going to end up happening if we continue to go down the path that we are going down. Okay, they want to get us into these little boxes where we are highly contained and highly controllable.
That's part of why they want to break the Constitution. They want us to be Venezuela. Bernie Sanders was the most honest person when he said, oh, he wants America to be Venezuela and to follow the Venezuelan model. He was honest about it.
Oh.
And the only reason why he's changed his opinion is because the honest and absolute only consequence that could possibly happen is what we see right now, which is why the media doesn't talk about Venezuela anymore. They stopped talking about them. Why? Because the obvious and only consequence of following this path is right before our eyes. The government killing its own people, people starving to death. They don't have property. They're eating animals in zoos, and they're digging out the garbage, and measles and mumps, amongst other diseases, are rampant. It is the only path they are leading us towards, but they don't want us to think about it, which is why they are so adamant to tell people, do not talk. Do not have conversations. Don't go on social media and ask a question. Don't ask a question of your elected leaders. Just obey. Nod your head, say yes, and obey. What's this?
You didn't hear about this being introduced this week?
I don't recall it.
Okay. Universal School Meal Program Act is introduced in the Senate by Sanders, or actually in both the House and the Senate, by Sanders and Ilhan Omar.
Which already makes me nervous and doubtful that it's effective.
Okay. Universal School Meals bill will provide free breakfast, lunch, and dinner to every student without demanding they prove they are poor enough to deserve help getting 3 meals a day.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
47,000 is the limit. Fair enough.
Now, current reimbursement rates are insufficient to cover the cost of producing meals. Our bill increases reimbursement rates in line with the USDA's estimated cost of producing meals to $2.72 for breakfast and $3.81 for lunch and dinner. Okay, right now, the cost, I looked this up the other day, is $3.81 for school lunch. Now, this bill is supposedly only supposed to raise everyone's taxes by 10%, 10 cents per year.
That's not going to work.
Exactly.
The math doesn't work.
No, it does not.
I'm just doing quick math in my head. It doesn't work.
No, it does not. Currently, there are 50 million students in the United States. Okay, if you just take lunch at 381, right, and you take the population of students, 50 million, away from the 330 million, which was the population of the United States, that leaves 280 million people.
No, that's the wrong number.
Out
Wait a
to
minute. Before you go further, Mike, that's the wrong number. 161 million people work. That's the number.
no, I'm actually I know, and I was getting to that.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay, so if we go to base on 280 adults, okay, which is actually less because there's a lot of kids that are under school age that aren't counted in that 50 million students. So if we go with 280 million, the cost per year per person of that 280 million is over $122 a year. Now we need to take into account over 40% of people that are taxpayer age do not pay income tax. So now we have to at least double that. So now we're at $244. What we didn't take into account on this also is this is 3 meals a day and a snack. So we need to take and triple that $244. So by the time everything's said and done, we're looking at probably closer to about $2,000 per year per person to pay for it. For taxes, I should say.
At least. At least.
And that doesn't even count the administrative costs or the increased labor that it's going to require to do all this.
Distribution, logistics, serving, cleaning, those are all part of that, which is not being accounted for. By the way, it's also the federal government intervening in private lives and in our government on state and local level, because you're going to local schools enforcing this. Federal government doesn't have the right to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's another problem with it. I mean,
Well,
I love the idea.
Doesn't have any authority in the education system, period.
See, this is another way of, this is propaganda. And it's propaganda because it feels good. It's emotional manipulation. You would, how dare you not say that you would feed kids? You want to feed kids. You are a
That was
monster
the
if you don't feed
pushback
kids.
that I got. Um, when I started making comments on this on Twitter, because that's where I saw this.
Of course. And I'm sure they said, "You're a monster. How could you not want to feed kids?
Exactly.
You're evil." And the answer is, that's not the government's job.
And
For one,
when I challenged the 10 cents per year increase in taxes and said, no, it's more like if you do the math, just very simple math, it's at least $122 per person per year. And somebody came back, well, $122, that's cheap. Okay. No.
but you just got lied to.
Prove that 10 cents, there's no way 10 cents can even work.
Right. But and here's the thing, they're happy with the lie, 1,000% wrong. They said 10 cents, it's at least 122. Let's go with those numbers. They said 10 cents, it's 122. That is a 1,000% difference. That is a massive lie. And if they are lying about something as simple and basic as the magnitude of the cost, what else are they not telling you? You should distrust. It's not like they said it's 10 cents and we're talking about 12 cents. It's not even like 10 cents and they're talking about $1.22. We are nowhere in the realm of a mathematical error. This is 1,000% incorrect. And it is an overreach of government. It is government going to your local house and saying, this is how your kids are going to be raised. The government does not have that right. It feels good. Don't you feel good? Think about the consequence. If they can control that, what else can they control? What else is now no longer off limits?
Well,
It doesn't stop there.
Well, Sleepy Joe last week said that all the kids are our kids. You know, kids don't belong to their parents; they belong to us.
Oh God, no!
He said that in a Rose Garden last week.
Am I surprised?
These are our kids. Well, yeah, Jody, your kids. You look at them as yours because you want to sniff them, have them sit on your lap, jump in a shower with you. They're not all your kid. You did that with your kid. You don't do that with anybody else's kid. We
saw how he raised his kids. Look at Hunter. Yeah, I don't know.
We know what Joe is all about. We know what Joe is all about. You know, but the fact that there's so many people in government that look at the next generation as their responsibility. I can't even say it's not their responsibility. It's their opportunity. They look at them as their opportunity. If the children were their responsibility, they would treat them the way the parents treat them, and they would make them earn the things that they have. They would make them learn the things they're supposed to learn, do the things that they're supposed to do, not teach them what they want them to think. And that's what they look at the kids at. They look at the opportunity. And that's something. Now, Lori said the other day, I don't know if she said she saw the argument on Bongino or one of the other guys. Said one of the reasons why they're letting so many of them to cross the border is because so many of the ideas of the left are beginning to fall apart, even to the leftists, that they're losing so many leftist votes to the reality of leftist policies that they need a new crop of voter.
Oh, that's
absolutely true.
Proven here.
So they're bringing them in the hopes that they'll remember who opened the door and letting them vote without ID, without citizenship, so that it can prop up the ideas that have already been proven to fail because they're already losing so much of their base. That's why. And that's why I say this is not because they're stupid. This is because it's a deliberate attempt to destroy the country. We have the enemy is no longer at the gate. The enemy is in the houses of power. They're running the show and they're taking this place down brick by brick, and they're doing it on purpose. And maybe when the idiots at the Young Turks or MSNBC or CNN or the rest of them alphabet soup places over there, maybe when all of them find themselves Don Lemoned out the door for somebody who's even a little bit more radical than they are, they'll start to see that the policies that they've been so quick to adhere to and promote are the policies that put them out of business as well.
No, they
Maybe
won't.
then they'll wake
No,
up.
no, they won't, because they have been they are following a model that was created in 1930s Germany. A certain man named Goebbels, and he had another little short guy that were following the idea, and they said it very clearly. If I control the children, I control tomorrow. I'm paraphrasing the term, but that's what they're after. The kids are being taught, as Jan is mentioning in the comments, this is about victimhood, and victims get taken care of. You are perpetually a victim. They are finding new categories and classifications to make you a victim, to make you dependent on the government and have no agency, no authority of your own. You are what the government says it is. The government has all control over you. And they are following this so that they can control the future. Because again, if the kids don't understand their rights, if they don't understand how to critically think, if they have been trained and shown that if you do not obey, you will be punished, and kids want to be loved. They do not want to be punished for standing out, for being different. True of every generation. All the teenagers want to be the cool kid, want to be in the cool crowd. They want to be accepted by everyone. This is why we have clothing fads, and you had the emo, you had the bell bottoms. It's everything. Every generation has this. These kids are being trained to be victims, to be coddled, to be controlled, and this is what they are after. And they are implementing these laws. The illegal immigrants are just a stopgap in that implementation. They need something to fill the gap until they get that next generation old enough that they will now be voting and obeying. And again, no consideration of the consequences of all of this. That is terrifying. And this is why within 20 years, within a generation, we're going to lose it all. If we keep going down this path, we lose it all. Because they don't care. They don't want you to have this. Ilhan Omar, how many times has she said she wants to break this nation? She wants to get rid of the Constitution, like the rest of the democratic socialists. They want to get rid of the Constitution and put in a different, the UN, WHO, WEF rules on how to run the world. She's there. I mean, think about that. You have Ilhan Omar, someone who wants to destroy the Constitution, Democratic Socialists of America. And she's making this bill along with who? Well, none other than Bernie Sanders, a self-admitted, self-avowed communist who also wants to break the Constitution. Why are we listening to these people on anything that has to do with economics or pretty much anything else in the country? They are not looking out for the best interests of people. They have a political ideology that is absolutely counterproductive to the Constitution and freedom. By their own definitions, by their own admittance, this is emotional manipulation. It's propaganda.
Let's get back to, okay, let's talk a little more about the economy and lying about the economy. Okay. So, fact sheet. Biden economic plan is working.
Ha!
No, it is.
Well,
It is
not the way we want it to work.
not the way they tell you it's working, but the way it's planned to work.
Okay. Historic progress to create jobs, promote workers, and transition to steady and stable growth. When President Biden took office, the economy was in crisis. Millions were out of work. Main streets were shuttered. In 2 years, the president has overseen historic economy recovery and laid a foundation for steady and stable growth in the years to come.
Stop right there. We already have a problem. There's already a problem with that paragraph because they left out why was the economy in crisis. Key thing, to go anywhere else with that, you have to understand what was the problem. Was it bad economic policy? Was it bad energy policy? Was it climate change? Was it a pandemic that shut down the world? And the world is in economic crisis because of the non-recovery in 2021 from that pandemic. Big thing, because it's not jobs that were lost. People didn't get fired. they got laid off, told to stay home because everything was shut down. First paragraph, and they have already manipulated people to think, oh, we're saving. We created jobs out of the blue. We're such great guys. No, you just turned on the friggin' lights and told everyone go back to work. Sorry, go on, Mike.
Okay. So then it goes a historic and equitable economic recovery. President Biden's economic strategy led to the historic recovery with tangible benefits for workers and families. Since President Biden took office, the economy has created more than 12 million jobs.
Lie.
Exactly. Including more than 800,000 manufacturing jobs. Again, a lie because most of those manufacturing jobs were recovered, not made.
Those jobs they're
created.
not new jobs. It's people going back to the job they had before.
Okay. And the unemployment rate is at a 54-year low. Another low. I'll explain to you why that's low, including near record lows for black workers. The unemployment rate for Hispanic workers hit a record low last year. Okay. Things that people don't take account of when they're looking at the unemployment rate is the fact that right now, in this era of time, we have more people leaving the workplace either by retirement, death, or some other cause than we've ever had in history. We have less people entering the workforce than is leaving the workforce. That is the whole reason why unemployment is so low rate. That is why so many people can't find people to work. People don't take into account baby boomers are retiring, they are dying. People don't take into account Gen X, my generation, is entering the age of retirement. They're entering the age where a lot more of us are starting to die off at a higher rate. Okay, so it isn't nothing that government did. It is the fact that we had the largest generation in history is now leaving the workforce. Okay, a lot of jobs that were created in order to accommodate that generation are not being filled. That's also what's causing a lot of people to be promoted and so forth. Okay, these are things that nobody's taking into account. Nobody's talking about these facts.
No, but they seriously won't. And going on to the very next sentence in that made me, and I just looked it up because it's another lie. And I will prove this because if you go back to what you were just showing, the very next sentence, the past 2 years were also the best 2 years for new small business applications on record. Okay, let's go to what I have on screen right now. This is from the St. Louis Fed. This comes from the Federal Reserve itself. This is their data. This is small businesses, all self-employed. That means small businesses in America. And you can see that number is a straight line. That is, the peak here is 9,905. That's 9,900,005 businesses. And here we are today at 9,815. That is basically a straight line. The only difference is the pandemic when everything was shut down and it went back to normal. This is the trend from 2017 to 2023. So I'm looking at 2 presidencies. This is a straight line. They are lying to the public. They expect that no one's going to check this because they started counting from here. To be exact. They start counting from January. That's how they get away with this.
Yeah.
They're counting from January 2021. No, that's not realistic. The answer is go back. Even if I go to 2019, they're wrong. If I go to 2017, they're wrong. This is a lie. And the data, if you actually know where to look, and they count on the fact that people don't, if you go and look, this is the government giving me the data, telling me they are lying because they don't want you to think. Insulting.
Okay, so we've obviously proved that. Okay, and we haven't even touched on inflation, the increase in gas or fuel costs, the increase of housing costs, the increase all across the board. We haven't even touched on that, which are all indicators that the economy is doing poor.
Yeah.
Okay, so right there. Okay, all in all, America is doing worse under this president than we were prior to the pandemic. Now, let's go into the other thing that's been a huge controversy this week. Actually, wrong category.
Oh, breaking news.
What's that?
Breaking news. Uh, Jennifer Lopez had a fight with her husband, Ben Affleck. And the New York Times has New York Post has a lip reader who is able to tell us what the fight was about. So if you want to find yourself out some really pertinent information on the country as a whole and how well we're doing or how bad we're doing, go to the New York Post, and they'll fill you in on the J Lo Affleck fight, because that's important and newsworthy.
Yeah, they're just distracting us. They want to
Yeah.
distract from people actually having
I'm
conversations.
I'm just seeing that coming across the feed. I thought you guys might be interested in knowing that Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck, Benifer, had a
Okay.
fight.
Oh my God.
So,
That's
all
Benifer
this week,
2.0.
I've been hearing about how if the United States goes into default, we have to raise the debt ceiling, because the United States goes into default, it'll be an economic catastrophe across the globe. Okay.
Mike, is your mic down, or is it just me? Sounds like
I'm
you're
adjust, I'm adjusting it.
okay. Go on.
So, first I just a thought, finished a thought and productive meeting with congressional leadership about the path forward to make sure America does not default. I emphasize, does not default on its debt for the first time in history. Okay? So there's been this huge controversy that we must raise the debt ceiling. Otherwise, we're going to default on our debts. So, in other words, we've got to go more in debt to pay the debts we already owe, is essentially what they're saying. And the thing is there's a lot of people that are claiming that the 14th Amendment mandates that we pay our debt. Okay, and that is not what the 14th Amendment says.
No.
Okay, the 14th Amendment says the validity of public debt of the United States, authorized by law, including debts incurred for the payment of pensions and bounties for services in suppressing insurrection or rebellion, shall not be questioned. There is nothing in there that says that it must be paid. It just says that the debt shall not be questioned. But neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in the aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States, or any claim for the loss or emancipation of any slave, or all such debts, obligations, and claims shall be held illegal and void. Now, right here where it says the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in the aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States would mean that we are not allowed to pay any debts that are contrary to the Constitution of the United States. Because if we pay debts that are contrary to the United States, or any debts incurred due to spending contrary to the Constitution of the United States, would amount to insurrection or rebellion against the United States, because the Constitution is the law of the land of the United States and is also what holds our Congress in check. So if it's in violation of the Constitution of the United States, then it is an insurrection or rebellion against the United States, because the Constitution is what established the United States. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So there is no mandate in the 14th Amendment, first off, where we must pay our debt. Okay? It just says that that we cannot deny any lawful debts.
Well, what is not to get on the whole what did they mean when they wrote it thing, but to deny it, what is the definition of deny it? Would the definition to deny it say, oh, we don't owe that? Or is the definition, we can't deny it, so well, hey, it's a debt, you have to pay it.
Well, the thing is okay, you don't have to pay. It's just like with a hospital bill. Okay? You admit that you owe the debt, but as long as you're paying $5 on it, you are acknowledging that debt. Okay? You don't necessarily have to pay the minimum to acknowledge a debt.
But acknowledging the problem with the debt ceiling isn't that we recognize we're in debt. Because we are. Mm-hmm. We are $31.7 trillion in debt. That's known. The debt ceiling literally is an excuse to continue to spend more. The drunk sailors spent all his money and took a loan from the credit union and said, well, I need more money because I spent it all. And the problem is you spent it all. Yes, but give me more. But you spent it all. And what are you planning to spend money on? More alcohol. That's where we are. Mm-hmm. We are spending more, consistently more.
Okay, let's be real. Where we're at is we're using our MasterCard to pay our Visa bill.
Yeah.
And then the following month, we use Visa to pay the MasterCard bill.
Yeah, and we're asking for credit increases all the way through, so we keep on covering it.
Right.
Yeah, and in the meantime, we're not paying the interest off on it. We just keep paying the minimum. So the debt margin keeps going up on each card every time we use it.
We cannot pay this off. No. All they are doing is they're putting us closer and closer to being a third world nation. Our money is worth less and less because of this.
Well, the other argument that I've been hearing lately is don't pay any of it. Who cares?
That's AOC's point of view.
What are they going to do to us? Don't pay any of it. We don't have to pay any of it. Let's just tell everybody to take a walk off a short pier. You ain't getting a dime. What are you going to do?
Well, that's called modern monetary theory, that the debts will go forever because no one will ever call it. That is something that's being pushed by Andrew Yang, by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and they are idiots because all you need is one country to call the debt, the dominoes fall. This is how we had the stock market crash of 1929. All you need is the first domino to fall. The rest cannot be stopped.
Well, they're making it easier. They're making it easier to call in that debt by this whole, getting off the dollar for the oil currency. They want to go to the yuan. Well, I always thought it was the yen. How did it become the
Yuan. Yuan. The yuan is Chinese. The yen is Japanese. They want to
All
go
right.
to the yuan.
Yeah, forget it. It's not the dollar, so I don't care. So it's but now that they're all pushed into that, and now they're saying South America, China, Russia, United Arab Emirates are all now pooling together to create a new currency to become the facilitating trade currency for all oil debt around the world, pushing the U.S. dollar out of that market, which is going to completely make the U.S. dollar crash. And and when you have this much debt load, a president who wants to see the country collapse, a party of people who are more than happy to, welcome in the United Nations as their new mentor and sovereign leader, it's pretty easy to see how this is all planned and articulated.
Well, it is actually planned and articulated. Okay, and it's planned by WEF. It is planned by the UN and other such entities that are looking for a unitarian global governance. And the only way that they can do that is to collapse currencies. And the leading currency right now is the United States currency. Okay? It is the one that is used in more markets across the globe. Okay, whether it's the petroleum market, whether it's the agricultural market, or whatever. Okay, most international trade is based upon the United States dollar. If they collapse the United States dollar, then they can point at it and say, see, currency doesn't work. So we must come up with a new standard for our transactions. Guess what? That's where you get to be the ESG scoring system goes into place.
Well, after crypto's been proven to be a lie and it doesn't work. Remember crypto? It's proof. It's proof against any kind of inflation. And as I have always said, crypto is only as valuable as your belief in it. It has no assets. So yeah, they're going to try and go into the ESG thing, the personal credit score, which is again, are you obeying your leadership, your betters? And the problem is there is no freedom in that. If we lose the petrodollar, people just, and I understand why the news media does not want to explain this to the average person. If we lose the petrodollar, we are instantly going to become name any African nation, name any South American nation. We are going to be in poverty right alongside them. That means no more cell phones. You think you're going to get a new Apple phone? Never. You'll never be able to afford it. You think you're going to be able to keep the lights on? Good luck with that. You won't be able to afford 2/3 of the foods that you get that are available right now. And I'm not talking about the stuff we import. I'm talking about the stuff we grow here in America. You want oranges? Forget about it. You're not going to be able to afford it. We are talking about levels of poverty that even during the Great Depression, we were never able to hit.
And here's the thing. As a country, we only have two things right now to act as leverage to remain viable in an economic world, especially a world where they want to get rid of the petrodollar and they want to cripple the United States. There's only two things. That's it. Two things that are going to keep us even remotely close to the table to bargain. One, our military strength.
Yep.
Okay, that's one, because without us policing the world, every two-bit dictator and God knows where is going to look to get their piece of the pie, by slaughtering half of the people in their own country. Okay, so
as they are doing now.
right. They need our military support for that. The other thing that they need from us is America is the world's breadbasket. Without American farming, without American production, the world is going to starve. It's very simple. No other country in the world has got the farming resources that we have in the United States. None. And even if they have the soil, they're not equipped to do it. They don't have the infrastructure, they don't have the tools, they don't have the equipment, they don't have the ability to do what America does as far as feeding the rest of the world goes. We have the most abundant resources in this country that we throw out 30% of the crap that we grow before it even hits the supermarket. Forget about what Americans waste in their own home. How you spend $200 on groceries a month, and you're probably throwing away 30 or 40 bucks a month in leftovers that you didn't eat. You're probably throwing away another 20 bucks in shit that you burned on the stove, or you overcooked or undercooked at a dog ate, whatever the hell it is. So those are the only two things that we really have as leverage. So if they want to eliminate, if they want to try and bankrupt us, the only way that we have to fight back is to say, okay, well, you don't have our military to supply you with your security for your sovereign nation. Without, now you have to trade it for the fuel, trade it for the oil, and without having the farming, if you don't give us the fuel, we're unable to be a player in that we can't operate our machinery, we can't operate our factories, our production is going to go down. Yeah, our people are going to go hungry, but not a single ounce of food is going to leave American shores to get to your country to support your people. But those are the only two things that we have to leverage.
But think about those two things. In terms of the military, we are downsizing the military purposefully. We're missing the lowered targets, and we have inferior individual recruits that are going into the military because they're all about warm, fuzzy hugs, doing paperwork, and going to a drag show, not actually doing the job of the military. As we are downsizing our military, so those are our military's in trouble, and then consider we're selling our farming lands. Bill Gates, China, there are several international entities and many corporations that are buying up large swaths of our private farms so that they will be able to sell that independent of what the government decides.
All right. But you want to know something? I don't put no stock in that shit either. I don't care if Microsoft wants to buy 200 million acres of some farmland in the middle of Idaho or Iowa or wherever the hell it is. We have a national crisis. We have a collapse or something like that. We start running low on food. I don't care who owns the deed. I don't care who owns the deed unless they're going to put a 30-foot tall electric fence with armed guards around it to prevent people from going in there and farming on it. Somebody will go in and farm on it. Farmers will go in and farm on it. If the governors of the state's going to turn around and say, okay, listen, we're declaring eminent domain and we're taking your friggin' property from you. We don't care who owns it because we need to plant crops on it. We need to grow fertile. We need to grow grass to feed for the livestock. We need to grow corn to feed to the livestock. We need to grow this to feed the people. Resources don't amount to shit when it comes to a piece of paper as ownership. It's a matter of who's going to utilize the land and who's going to be able to take it over. And when you're going to have what do we have? 34 governors that are of the conservative bent. I don't care if Bill Gates wants to, own a piece of property. He's not going to keep it. That's what it is. It goes back to that shit when I saw everybody going out to the supermarket getting cartloads of toilet paper. I'm like, all right, congratulations. You didn't just hoard toilet paper for yourself. You hoarded all that toilet paper for the guy on your street who has more guns than you do. The guy who's got the person in the position of screw you, it's mine, is going to own that land, not whoever owns the deed. And when it all collapses, all those pieces of paper ain't going to be worth anything anyway.
Well, I want to bring up a few points on this agricultural stuff. Okay. The largest grain producer in the world right now is China, not the United States.
Yeah.
The largest food exporter is the United States, but the largest grain supplier is China. Okay. Um, since the 80s, China's been really ramping up its grain and agricultural markets. Okay. United States, since the 80s, has been on a steady decline in agricultural markets. Okay. Um, in the most recent survey, there were 2 million U.S. farms in 2022, down from 2.2 million farms in 2007. Similarly, the acres of land that farms continue its downward trend with 893 million acres in 2022, down from 915 million acres 10 years earlier. Okay, so the U.S. agricultural market is on a steady decline and has been since the 80s.
Yeah, but again, that's all policy, that's all paper. When you get down to a crisis, that 100 acres of farmland that nobody's using,
We're
somebody's
losing people that know how to farm.
Oh yeah, definitely.
yeah,
We're
to
losing the skills to be able to farm.
an extent, but you're also increasing a certain number of people in this country who have learned to become self-sufficient and independent and have retained that knowledge. People that know how to do this stuff, that know how to do it on a large scale, that just don't have the ability or land to do it. When the crisis hits, and it will, these people will become the most valuable members of our society because they're going to be the people who are able to feed everybody. The people who can feed you, the people that can clothe you, the people that can protect you, and the people that can build your homes are all going to be the most valuable people in society. The people who can control the infrastructure, and it's not going to be government, it's going to be people. And when it happens, that's why I tell people, I learned how to can, stuff. I learned how to grow stuff. I learned how to do all that stuff. I'm on the other side of my studio right over there. I got racks loaded with stuff. But that doesn't compare to the amount of crap I got stuck up in here to be able to teach and know how to do all that stuff. There are millions of people like that out there in this country that are willing and ready to take that up when it should happen. If China says, "Oh, we're not going to ship
our
you
generation.
anymore," yeah, that's our generation. And you want to know, and when it collapses, the new generation, when their friggin' iPhone don't work no more, and they can't get their Gucci suit, sneakers, and all the rest of that shit, it's going to be time for a rude awakening. And you're going to start finding that people are going to have to learn how to become self-sufficient, and those who don't are liabilities. Those who do are going to be the ones that are welcomed into the society of producers.
You're not getting it, Frank. You're not getting it. Our generation is literally the last generation that is continuing farming. I'm seeing tons of family farms, okay, because part of our customer base is family farms. I'm seeing tons of family farms that are looking at shutting down because the next generation doesn't want to take over it.
Right?
Okay?
They don't.
It's two generations away, and we aren't going to have people that know how to farm anymore.
I know that, but everything is shutting. Listen, people don't want to do it because everything that they want can be Uber delivered to the house. Everything that they want is in the supermarket. Everything they want is close at hand. Everything is a couple of clicks away with the mouse on Amazon. When that shit doesn't work anymore, they're going to have to learn how to do it. And that's when they're going to come to the generation like ours and say, listen,
we're going to be gone.
No, you're thinking that this is going to be 20 years away, 30 years away. It's not. This is around the corner. We're all still going to be sitting there, sitting on a wealth of knowledge that is going to be so valuable that we're going to have to do some tough love learning for these people to show them how to survive. And if they don't want to learn, they're not going to survive. The people that are going to, okay, you want to go live in your 15-minute city? Guess what? Guess who's going to be supplying your 15-minute city? Because China's not sending their grain here no more. You're going to see a reemergence of all of this stuff. And like I said, and this is all after the collapse. It's not going to happen before the collapse. It's all going to happen after the collapse. It's all going to happen after it. We'll survive. It'll all come back. It's just not going to come back the way it is now. What you're going to see is the fruits of all these ill-gotten ideas are all going to get picked. Everybody's going to take a bite, realize it tastes like shit, and it's not the way it's got to be. But they're going to have to learn. You're going to have very tough times to get back to good times, and it's going to happen sooner than they think. You know, you can only go so fast before you lose control and hit the wall. We're going faster and faster every day. It's not going to be that long before the bottom falls out from under us. We will survive.
In some form.
I don't see it happening before 10 years.
Well,
10 years is fast.
You're optimistic. you're optimistic. I look at it. I look at a different set of tea leaves. I look at, you know, within the circles I travel. And granted, I travel around with some people that
I don't see it happening.
Radical with what they do.
Okay, because it's the frog in the pot, boiling pot.
Yeah, that boils
Okay,
the frog.
they're only going to be able to push this so fast, or they'll get mass resistance against it.
I don't think so. I don't think they will, because the moment that people will resist is already too late. The majority of the public will put up with anything and everything. There's been experiments done on this for decades. People will put up with everything up to the moment of death. They will be tortured, they will be punished, denied rights and freedoms forever until the moment of death. And then under desperation, they will react. Let's think about this. We have a debt that is literally banana republic debt. We have attacks on our economy that are coming from three different sectors: Middle East with oil, supplies and manufacturing from China and Southeast Asia, and we have Europe, which is food and oil and power. So we have three separate areas that are attacking us on an economic level, on a political level, on every level you can think of, militarily as well. We know that China is building up their navy, and they're going to have the largest navy in the world within the next 2 to 3 years. They will double the United States military navy within about 5 to 7 years. We know that they are targeting, or it appears that they are targeting, to start a war, a regional war in Southeast Asia in 2027, possibly 2 years before, 2 years after. So somewhere between 2025 and 2029, we are looking at a Southeast Asian war. We're looking at Ukraine going on for the next 10 years. That puts us into 2033. Notice the timelines that these things are falling in at the same time that we have internally individuals who are trying to disrupt our ability to have energy, which is a key component of inflation, at the same time that they're trying to transition the public into being either vegetarians or eating bugs. And we are having a pressure added to us of illegal immigrants coming into this nation, some of them, at least some of which, are not looking for our best interest. These are infiltrators looking to destroy our nation. They're looking to continue this decay of both our economy and our political power, and maybe even terror. We have seen that also coming in. We are poised that by the time we get to 10 years, there will be massive international conflicts while we have a military at one of the weakest and lowest points possible. We haven't even talked about the fact that our nukes are aging out and they're not being replaced, which is one of our primary threats and protections around the world. But yet, China is aging up on their nukes, so is Russia. And now we have the free agents of North Korea and Iran trying to enter that arena. And they're more than happy to use dirty bombs as well as having a hypersonic transmission. We are in insanely difficult. If we say we can make it the next 10 years without a severe international conflict and massive economic, not recession, depression, I would be actually amazed and be happy because we are well into the path of being in a conflict that's going to devastate us politically and monetarily within the next 10 years. Easily. I say it's going to be 2027. The numbers just don't lie. That's the prediction I see. And then you add in the influence of the progressive mindset that's trying to indoctrinate our children into being wards of the state, slaves of the state. And that's definitely within a 10-year time frame for those kids to suddenly become voting adults. I don't see how we make it past 10 years without at least half of what we've been talking about today hitting us. We can change it, though. People have to literally, we need to massively, in a wave, vote, change the people who are in charge, change the policies, and pull back the government massively. We have to massively pull back the government instantaneously. We don't have 5 years to do this. We got to change our government within 2 to 3 years, and we have to massively and drastically pull back the reins on all these departments and in all this spending. That's the only way we stop this. And that means people have to get a vote and elect
That's
people.
the first thing, okay, that we have to do. The biggest thing that we have to do, and something that we preach at over and over and over on this show, is we have to start coming together as communities. We need to quit letting the powers that be keep us divided, and we need to start coming together at the community level and start saying enough is enough and pushing back from the community level. And until we start doing that, it's not going to matter because it's just a bunch of lost voices.
Yeah. That's why we keep saying people need to be involved. They got to vote. They got to speak up. Stop being afraid of YouTube and
They've
Google.
got to start organizing in their communities.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. You've got to start at your town hall. Actually, not even there. You need to start at your HOAs. Okay, you start there and you start working your way up from there. You start at your HOA, start at your school boards. Okay, one of the most promising signs I've seen in recent years is the amount of parent involvement in schools and people speaking out at school boards.
Which is why they went after the parents so hard. Because
Okay, that is actually one of the most promising signs I've seen in recent years.
Well, do you remember why one of the first things that got shut down during COVID was the bars and the restaurants?
Because that's where people speak.
Because when we found it as
discuss stuff.
Because when we founded as a nation, all of the plans for a new republic were established in a tavern.
Kelly's Tavern.
They were all established in a tavern. You know, where people were able to come together, people were able to have a conversation, people were able to exchange ideas on the way things should be. And that's why they shut down.
Back, guys.
Okay.
That's why they shut down the taverns. That's why they shut down the bars, the restaurants, and everything else, because they wanted to make sure that people didn't have a place to socialize and discuss what was happening in their world.
Well, that's also when they kicked up the censorship online and said,
Right.
here's all the things that are restricted. You can't say that.
And then when people started going to the schools. Why do they think they went after the parents? Because they wanted to chill the parents. They didn't want the parents talking and exchanging ideas. That's why YouTube censors TV, podcasts. That's why Twitter censored ideas. That's why the news censors what people say. Because when people talk, when people think, when people express their ideas, it might be someone who might not have been open to some suggestion might actually hear something and go, that makes a lot of sense. That guy over there was talking right. That lady over there said the right thing. That person over there made sense to me. I think they're right, and I think the government is wrong. That's why they do it. And to my point earlier about the collapse, I threw this picture up behind me. You could see it over there. Since I don't know how to share screens very well, the only thing I can do is change my backdrops. This is one of the herds from the Walking Dead TV show.
Yeah.
The Walking Dead TV show is not about zombies. It's not about it. It's about this. It's about this. The people that were banding together and creating colonies that they could survive with the people that had the knowledge. That's how it's going to play out in this country. It will be the people that have the knowledge, people that have the abilities, people that have the tools and the skills to go further will have to band together. And all of the zombies at the gates are going to be the ones that can't get Amazon to deliver their boba tea anymore. When the shit collapses and the people who are prepared bind together and say, we'll take care of the farming, we'll take care of the food supply, we'll take care of the protection of the communities, we'll take care of that, because government can't do any of that because government no longer is functioning. All those people who don't know how to operate a can opener are going to be on the outside looking in going, can you please feed me? No, I can't feed you. Can you please teach me how to open up a can? Teach me how to farm. Teach me how to raise livestock. Teach me how to do this. Teach me how to do that. When it all goes to shit, the people with the knowledge and the skill and the tools are going to be the ones at the top of the heap. Everybody else is going to be outside the gate.
I think the character that did that is Nagel. I didn't watch the show. I think, but everyone was screaming about he was the bad guy.
He was one. Every season there was a new clique.
Yeah, but they're all the same representation, I think.
Right. It's right. Every one of them is a different. Every season is a new community, and every community had its own ideas on how they should do things, and had their own rules and laws and stipulations and all the rest of that crap. And then eventually it keeps going down. This group kills half that group kills half that group. The survivors get together, make a better group, then they find a bigger group, and it's the same thing. And it's a really dramatic way of doing what's going to happen. And that's going to be that communities are going to have to start banding together and saying, okay, listen, this is what we're going to have to do to survive. This is how we're going to have to run things. And the people that know how to do things, we're going to have to entrust them with the authority to do these things, while those who don't know how to do anything are going to have to learn how to do everything and learn how to be laborers to earn their plate.
They're going to be slaves.
No, not slaves.
No, I think that's the realistic way it works out. Yeah.
No,
because if you don't eat.
Well, if you don't, you leave. Go. I ain't got time for you. Because because if you have a slave, when you're looking at survival, see, slavery wasn't a matter of survival. Slavery was a matter of profit. Slavery was a matter of status and all the rest of that. Okay. If a slave produced 10% more than what it cost to have that slave on your land, it was a productive value, because you could own however many you wanted, and you would be able to have a net profit from your investment in the slave. Okay, that's what it was about. But when you have something where you have to earn your keep in order to survive, there's no profit in it. If for you to have if you're only going to produce 10% more than what it is to keep you viable, you're not pulling enough of your weight. So you might as well go. You're costing resources. Your return on investment is not high enough for us to keep feeding you. Go find another clan. Leave.
No,
Go.
I definitely get what you're saying, but I think, and perhaps there's definitely, I can see how this could be a very interesting conversation about the future of America and how I believe, and thinking about it now and looking at the Walking Dead as the analogy, we're going to see if we have the collapse, if America collapses because of the economy becoming third world, if we lose our power as a military might, if we have less political influence in the world, you're going to see more. I think we're going to see more slavery, which is going to be idealized or worded as collectivism. We're going to call it, what do they call the communes or socialism? But at the end, at the core of it, is you must do this or die.
Well,
And I
that's
think
survival.
that's slavery. And I think that's a proper definition of slavery. You lose the right to choose because the only choice is do it or die. And that's a slavery to me.
Well, listen, then every one of us in the world is a slave. Because if we don't
To an extent.
work, we don't produce, we don't earn, we don't eat.
Well,
that isn't true.
We're all slaves up unto ourselves. We're slaves unto
Yes.
ourselves. If we do not produce, we do not survive. That's called life. That's that was one thing Darwin was kind of right about. Is there is some sort of survival of the fittest. If you cannot produce more than what you consume, you're going to perish. If you can't produce more than what you are taking in, you are of no value to the community that you're living in. So that community is going to wind up telling you to leave. Find another community that's going to take your lazy ass. If you can't produce, we're not going to be here to feed you. Now, granted, our society is going to teach us that we have to take care of the elderly, that we have to take care of the children, we have to take care of the infirm, those who cannot produce. So we do make those exceptions because that's human nature. We take care of those who can't take care of themselves. But we're not going to take care of those unwilling to take care of themselves. And you're
Except
going
we
to
do
have
it every day.
what?
We do it
because
every
this
day.
is because there's a social safety net, Michael. When the social safety net called government is no longer there, that goes out the window. That's going to go out the window. All of the arguments that everybody has about economy go out the window when there is no government there controlling the economy. The economy is going to be a matter of what you can do and what you can't do. And those who can't are not going to survive. And when it comes down to it, when the economy collapses and the zombies are at the gate looking to come in and take your resources that they didn't earn, that they didn't grow, that they didn't can, that they didn't build, that they didn't save, this is the enemy at the gate. The violence will precipitate any form of slavery. People are going to perish. People are going to perish because that's the way it is. Like I said, you saw people beating people to death over toilet paper. Over toilet paper. People were beating people to death over baby formula. People are savages. They're savages. And
Yeah.
when you start remembering that people are animals and the only thing that keeps us civilized is the fact that we somewhat need each other to survive in certain circumstances, that's what it's going to get bad. It's going to get bad.
It's
And
definitely going to get bad.
You're going to have 6 months after an economic collapse, you're probably going to have a 20% reduction in population within 6 months. Within the first 6 months, it'll be 20%. Within the first year, it'll be 30 to 40%. By the end of the first year, the communities will be established where They produce this. The trade routes will start being established, and all the people, the vagrants who don't know how to do anything, are going to have to learn how to pull that cart, how to tote that bale, and how to work their asses off in order to get fed and get housed, because they're not going to have any other alternative to do it. And that's why I say the people with the knowledge, the people with the skills, the people with the tools are going to be at the top of the heap, because they're going to be the only ones who are going to be able to facilitate the survival of everybody else. If you got 5 people on a desert island, you don't kill the one guy who knows how to take salt water and make it potable. That's the king. That guy is your king now. The guy who knows how to take one coconut and turn it into 10, he's the prince. The guy who knows how to build the boat to get off that friggin' island, well, he's the next in line, because it's going to take him time to build that friggin' thing. But everybody else on the island, you better learn how to turn that soil, better learn how to chop that tree, you better learn how to, how to gather the water for the king in order to be able to straighten it out. There's going to be a hierarchy. There's going to be a hierarchy. And all these social programs are going to mean dick when it all goes, because none of them are going to be existent. What are they going to? Oh, we're going to give you a food stamp card so you can go feed yourself. Well, the store wants $4 million for a loaf of bread. You give me $160 a month. What am I going to do with that? Ain't going to be worth shit. That's why I tell people, prepare. Get a book on survival techniques. Learn how to camp. Learn how to grow food. Learn how. If you're not willing to be the type of person who can defend yourself, if you're not able to farm land or grow food, learn a couple of skills that will be useful to you when the economy collapses. At least useful for you or useful for a community. Make yourself somebody who's indispensable. Because if you're not indispensable, you're disposable. And you do not want to be disposable.
Actually, the Hunger Games plays on this very well.
Yeah, that's another aspect of it. Mm-hmm.
Look, art imitates life. There's a lot of lessons that we could learn from Hollywood. And last week we spoke about it extensively when we talked about AI and why that shit's getting out of control.
Mm-hmm.
That's another factor that's somewhere involved with this thing. What happens when AI figures out that the economy is going to collapse, and that's going to wind up being something that's going to put the death nail in its coffin? AI will figure out a way how to circumvent some stuff. AI will figure out how to protect itself.
Actually,
that's what I said. I can't do the shit that I used to do. But thank God I know how to do it. I know how to teach how to do it. I teach a lot of that stuff, how to survive. I teach it. That's why I'm fat. I don't have a problem eating. My mother didn't raise nobody who would ever starve. I know how to eat in the wilderness if I need to. I know how to build a shelter out of nothing. I know where to find water, what mushrooms to eat, what ones I can't, what animals are friends and foes or food. The rest of these people, they don't know this.
And that's
they don't know
actually
this stuff.
one thing I'm very fortunate with is I grew up on a farm, so I know how to farm. I grew up raising animals, so I know animal husbandry. Because of my education and skills, as Dal says, if you can take mechanical energy and turn it into electricity, I can do that. Okay,
Yeah.
I know how to hunt. Okay, all these things are things that are skills that I have that will allow me to move on. But we've got generations that are coming up now that are not prepared for this.
Right. And with that generation, like my cousin was here last week he was on the show with me, my cousin. He's got his 2 boys. They're 14 and I believe 12 or 11. I'm not sure, but dates, I'm never good with dates. I want to take these boys out camping. I want to teach them some survival skills. I want to teach them how to do a lot of stuff, because these kids, they're lacking in a lot of this of the stuff that I was taught when I was growing up, because they didn't do the Boy Scout thing, they didn't do the 4-H thing, they didn't do the farm thing. I had the benefit with, like you, Michael, when I was a kid. I spent most of my summers as a kid in upstate New York on a ranch. I was the only 8-year-old kid in Brooklyn that had a rodeo trophy. I know how to rope. I know how to rope steer. I know how to break horses. I know how to do all that stuff. I learned how to do it. I did it from a young age. Certain skills. I want to teach these kids how to do it so that they can be prepared, because I see bad things coming, and I want these kids to be able to have some skills that'll translate into value. And sitting on your phone, playing with your phone, is not one of those skills. It's not one of those skills. I want the kids to learn how to do stuff. And like I said, we have a generation, but we also have a generation of something I noticed happening a few years back. Uh, you're seeing a lot of young people, and I'm talking in their 20s and 30s, and even a little younger, adopting the old trades and bringing them back into the forefront. These, what they call themselves, artisans.
Mm-hmm.
These artisans, especially in food production. I'm seeing, like, you go to the Village in New York. There's probably a dozen shops over there making candy the way they used to do it in the 1800s, using the machinery that dates back that far. They learned the old ways, and they brought back something that was gone. A skill that everybody thought was gone. There's guys out there that are doing book bindings and printing presses the way they used to be done 100 years ago. Locksmithing is becoming huge again. If you watch TV, one of the most popular shows on TV, a show that I happen to know a lot of the contestants from because I've met them at all the trade shows, is Forged in Fire.
Yeah.
Blacksmithing is making a tremendous comeback among young kids. When I build my property next this coming fall, I'm building a blacksmith forge because I want to do it. I know I have the fundamental knowledge of how to do it. I just want to be able to do it, just to challenge myself to see if I can. There is a lot of people out there that are adopting the things that all took place before the advent of the smartphone. They're learning the trades. There are a lot of young people. I don't want to sell them short. There are a lot of young people that are learning these things and that are adopting these things as their own. I laugh because a lot of them are, you see these bearded guys in flannel shirts, and I make fun of them as, like, these guys don't even know how to turn on a chainsaw. But a lot of these kids are learning skills that are dead, dead skills, and they're learning them again. This is wonderful. It's wonderful to see. Now they're doing it from an economic standpoint. They're saying nobody else is doing it. This is a niche market. I can make a boatload of money from it. The internet is huge because it gets out their name, it gets their product out there, and they wind up doing very well for themselves. In survival situations, when things go bad, these young kids are going to have skills that are going to make them invaluable to other people. I just hope that's part of their awareness, is that they know how valuable these skills are, and they're willing to teach other people how to do it. Those who are willing, those who are so indoctrinated into the system that they want everybody to wipe their ass for them, sorry, move to the next community. Because they're fodder. Literally, I hate saying it, but they're fodder. They will be the true useless idiots, not useful idiots, useless idiots. If you're not prepared, you don't have the skill, you have no place.
Yeah, I can see that. And
Now,
all
one of
of
the
this,
biggest things that's going to be, and one of the most important, and we've already touched on it over and over on this, is the ability to get food. Okay, and Dolls mentioned it in here. Um, Foraging for food is going to rapidly become short supply.
Oh yeah, you have to eventually. Nature on its own can't sustain the people. That's why we went from hunter gatherers to agricultural
Mm-hmm.
societies, because we had to produce more than what nature could produce
And
naturally.
Yeah.
the biggest value are going to be the people that can grow food. Okay, whether it's on the hoof or in the ground. Okay, those are going to be the ones that are going to be of prime value, and most influential, because they're going to be the ones that actually keep everybody sustained. Then you're going to have other skills like Frank's been mentioning. Okay, people that can blacksmith, people that can artesian skills, glass blowers, and those type. Another skill Dal brought up is the ability of being able to make electricity out from mechanical movement and that type of stuff. Okay, those are all going to be key components of any type of future society after whatever collapse comes. And one thing that we really haven't mentioned, we've always been on the edge of collapse. Okay, they were talking about it in Carter's era. Okay, when we went through the gas shortages in the 70s. Um, so we've always been on the cusp. Okay, right now, what we're looking at more than anything is a very severe financial and economic crash. And we can, that could potentially have a hell of an impact across the globe. One of the things that I see that has that a lot of these elites that are pushing these programs of the 15-minute cities and so forth have failed to take into account is the black markets that will develop under these um, regimes. Okay, if you go with an ESG type of um, economic model, there's going to be black markets that develop because there's going to be people that will do everything they can not to have to comply with that type of market. And there's going to be bartering, there's going to be other types of currencies that develop outside of the government social currency. Are you frozen, Frank?
Probably.
So that is one hope that I do have. If they do end up trying to put forth these social economies and so forth, is fact that there will be a subsection of the world that will participate in these alternate currencies of exchanging goods and services.
Well, the one thing that I'm hoping that see, again, this is something that doesn't rely on government as much as people think it does. Uh, Energy is going to be one of the things now. Like I said, if and when we have a collapse, certain energy is going to be harder to produce than other energy. Is going to be harder to produce. Nuclear is pretty much, you know, you, you're talking such an extremely sophisticated system right there that it's not like a little community is going to be able to, whip up its own reactor to produce electricity. There are methods of producing solar. There are methods of producing methane, uh, fuel from corn. There are all ways of doing it. I'm just hoping that if and when we do have a collapse, that there's enough people smart enough to take over a couple of places where we can refine for fuel, where we can drill for our own oil. Because, like I said, without government, once things collapse and government's real, okay, well, you can't do that. Screw you. Who are you? You're not telling people what to do no more. Government ain't going to have a say after the collapse. People are going to do what they need to do to survive. I'm just hoping that the hardest thing that we'll have on our plate is fuel. Gasoline, heating oil, that stuff's going to be the hardest thing for communities to generate without larger organizations of people who have that knowledge how to do it. Yeah, we could have people that know how to build houses, but if you can't get lumber through the plant, it's going to be harder to do that. You have people that can grow agriculture, but if we can't get fuel for the tractors, then it's all by hand. That's going to be harder. There's a lot of it. Our society as it is now, the only reason we've managed to. This is part of the downside of being so goddamn successful in the last 100 years after the Industrial Revolution, is that we've relied so much on technology to sustain our growth that we are now so indebted to it that when things do go south, we're relying on so much of that technology to sustain the society that we do have, that when it goes south, those things are going to cease to be able to operate. So they're going to cease being able to produce enough to sustain the populations that we do have. So that's going to be the hardest thing, is going to be energy production, because that's everything else hinges off of energy production. And unless we could figure out how to small scale a lot of that, that's the hardest thing that we're going to have trouble replicating.
Well, let me say, I got to go in a minute, but I do want to say for
Actually,
people who are
we're going to
watching
need
this,
to wrap this up soon.
what I do need to say to everyone is, if these things are troubling people, if they are making people concerned that you don't know enough, that you're not prepared enough, there are two things to do. Well, three things you should be doing. One, learn about these skills that are necessary that you don't have. Two, be involved in your government, local, state, and federal. Get involved now to stop this becoming the eventuality. Because all of these things we're talking about at the end of the show today are the eventual outcome. These are the logical consequences of what we are seeing happening right now. And if we prevent this from going further, we prevent the obsessive and absolute need for these additional skills you don't have and you may not be able to get in time. Third thing I would suggest, as I'm leaving right now, but third thing I suggest, be involved in channels like this one, the Liberty First Foundation. Maybe there's one or two others that you want. Be involved. Be actively involved. Support, do the like, do the share. Most importantly, subscribe. Let us be able to reach more people. You will be able to get in touch. It costs you nothing unless you decide that you want to be a member. And that's $15 a month. That's affordable, even if you're a progressive.
A year.
Just to be able to hear, that's right, $15 a year. This is affordable because having these conversations helps in getting additional skills. It helps in preventing any of this by happening, by stopping the dominoes that certain political factions are putting in front of us. The more we adhere to the Constitution, the less we have to fear negative consequences. That's why our country grew. That's why we are where we are today, and that's why we're in danger of losing it all. The closer we are to the Constitution, the more secure we are. The further we get from it, the more unstable things become.
Exactly.
And that's why you should support Liberty First Foundation, because you're helping to secure your future as well as the current day. But with that, I do have to run because even though I'm enjoying this, I do have to run. Um, but it's a
I
great
just
conversation. We got to do this again.
one
Go
quick
ahead.
thing, one quick thing I'm going to do real quick. If I could figure out how to do the share thing, uh, I gotta share screen real quick. Just want to let we sent something out to Jan earlier
Oh,
this
yes.
week because, and I just wanted to pop this up on there real quick if I figure out how to do this thing. Oh, that's that one. Hold on. Here, are you guys seeing that?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, you see where it says Jan's G3C?
Yep.
All right, yeah, that Jan's first firearm is a Taurus GC3, and as a token of our gratitude for having Jan be one of our most ardent supporters from day one, we wanted to gift her something nice. So we custom printed a 3D gun display unit so that she could put that on display. And there's her gun on the display with one of the magazines over there, and there's a little tray over there that has a name in it. She can put her extra bullets in it. So I just wanted to throw that out there real quick. That yes, uh, participating has its benefits.
Yeah.
You know, we can't do that much just yet, but we always want to try and say thank you to those that have been here with us from get go. And and Dal, we got to get some information from you because we got something that we'd like to put in the pipeline out to you as well for always being there with us. So we appreciate you guys. Uh, myself, I'm gonna sign out of here. You guys be safe and shoot straight. I gotta go take a painkiller, a bath, and scratch an itch because they took my cast off yesterday and put me in a soft boot, and it's really not comfortable at all.
Yeah.
So you guys be safe. I'm gonna leave. Love you guys. We'll see you guys next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, and hopefully next week will be more lighthearted conversation.
Absolutely.
All right. You guys be safe. Talk to you later.
Bye bye.
Have a great night, Frank. And with that, we're going to go ahead and round up this roundtable for this week. We're here every Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We do encourage you to like, share, and subscribe. And we do want you to start inviting other people in. Help us get some more viewers up. Because a lot of the conversations that we have on here, you may not agree with us, but I guarantee the conversations that we're having on here are conversations that need to happen across the United States. Okay? We need to start having some serious conversations in this country. And regardless of whether you fall on the other side of the aisle politically or whatnot, join the conversation. Get involved. Okay? That's all we can say. Is get involved. Start working in your community. Start organizing and uniting your community. Because ultimately, that's where everything has to start, is within our communities.
Yep.
I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I am going to push, we are in the middle of our membership drive for 2023. You can go to our site and join and become a member. And like Michael was saying, it's $15 a year, not a month, a year. And you can get access to some exclusive content. Now that I have a new computer, you will start seeing more and more content being produced. I was kind of hamstrung, and it is very hard for me to get anything done. Now that I've got this here, I can actually start getting some things done and start producing some of the things that I've promised for the last few months. So that I want to say again, thank you to everybody that was on in the chat. I want to thank you, Michael, and don't forget, Michael has his own live stream every week. No sound bites allowed. Make sure to catch that. Okay, he goes into a lot of information A lot of things that we need to, that again, conversations need to happen for. Okay? So, with that, good night and have a great week.